What if you could remember the name of every single person you met? In this short instructional video, I'm going to teach you a technique that I created that will empower you to easily and permanently remember the names of everyone you come across. Because we all know how embarrassing it is to go to a gathering, a networking event, or whatever, just being out in public, and you see somebody you know, you've run across them 3 or 4 times, and you're like, is it Melissa or Melanie? Melissa, Melanie, Melissa, Melanie, and they're talking to you, and they're like, hey, John, how you doing? Here's my friend Brianne, and you're like, Melissa, Melanie, or Michelle, is it Melissa? One of those, and finally you go, hey, it's great to see you, it's Melissa, right? And they're like, no, it's Danielle. And you kind of do the networking equivalent of telling them they have a big ass. Not remembering their name it's a personal insult to them. Taking the time to learn and remember someone else's name is the first step towards recognizing them as a discrete, unique, separate individual in the world. Tall, busty, blonde is a concept. Samantha is a person. See the difference? Learning their name is like beginning to recognize them. It's a compliment you're paying them, a gift that you're giving them. It's very empowering to walk into a venue and see people you run into before and you remember their names and you're confident about it. George, it's good to see you. Hey, Christina, Jessica, how's it going? Strawberry, what's up? And yes, I do have a friend named Strawberry. By the way, my name is John McLean. I'm the creator of Lazarus.com, bringing your online dreams back from the dead. And this is another inner game secret. I call it Remember Every Name. Now, the space I play in is called inner game, which refers to the things that go on inside of us. While people tend to focus most or even all of their attention on the outside world, we all pretty much get that it's what happens deep within us that determines our success, or more commonly, the lack thereof. In this video, we're also going to go behind the scenes and how your brain really works, and learn some pretty surprising things. The confidence and the charge that comes from knowing with certainty what people's names are when you encounter them in the world, it's an incredible feeling. It's a feeling I want you to have on a regular basis. And as I'll explain in just a moment, when you recognize someone you know and remember their name, a hormone actually gets secreted in your body that makes you feel good, that gives you a feeling of mild euphoria. Crazy, huh? Now, before I share my secret technique to help you remember the names of everybody you meet, there's an important underlying concept you need to understand first. Because there is something that can undermine your success in using this strategy. And by something, of course, I mean you. If you're not already fantastic at remembering the names of the people you meet, then you have a problem. And here's the problem. You tell yourself a story. And the story goes like this. I'm not good at remembering people's names. The end. Maybe you've said this to yourself, or you've heard close friends say that I'm not good at remembering people's names, and that's their story. It's a very short story, and it doesn't even have a happy ending. Clearly, it's a story that doesn't serve you very well if your goal is to remember people's names. Now, I come from a background as a shaman and as a healer, and I learned early on working with people that they get so caught up in the story of whatever's wrong with them that the story of their problem becomes the problem itself. And so the first step towards healing, and in this case we're healing you for being the kind of person who can't remember names, is to be open to the idea that a new story is possible, that you can tell yourself a story that has a happy ending. If you've had a chance to watch my Learn to Juggle video, the best damn Learn to Juggle video ever made, and if you haven't, check it out. In that video, we learn a new story in our very body, a story that says, well, we know how to juggle, okay? I mean, I work a lot of times with smokers, people who have been smoking cessations, and in their head, they're telling themselves a story that says, I'm a smoker, right? But really, the story is in their body, because it's that sensation, that monster, whatever they like to call it, that's here, or here, or here. That's the one that's really dictating that we smoke, okay? And if we get rid of that, get out of our body, well, now that allows us to tell a completely new story. The stories we tell ourselves influence so much of our behavior, so many of the ways we react to the world. You take a guy with a fear of public speaking, which is said by many people have a greater fear of public speaking than they do of dying itself, okay? And if you were to ask him and say, well, what is it you feel right before you go on stage to speak? How do you know you have a fear of public speaking? And they'll say, well, I've got these butterflies in my stomach, and I've got a tightness in my chest, and sort of a lump in my throat, and that's how I know I'm just terrified to go out there and speak. I want to suggest that that's just a story he's telling himself about some physical sensations in his body. Now, I had the privilege and the honor to work with Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker and writer you may be familiar with, some years ago as a field trainer of his. I've seen Tony backstage, and I will guarantee you, I mean, I wasn't inside his body, but I guarantee you what Tony was feeling right before he went on stage every time to speak was, oh, maybe some tightness in his belly, something in his chest, a lump in his throat. Except the story that Tony Robbins tells himself about what these sensations means, his story goes like this. I've got this, I might just have this one chance with these people. I got 4,000, 5,000 people here today. They each paid hundreds of dollars to hear me speak. I just hope I can give them some value. I hope I can share something, some takeaways that will impact and benefit their life and really make it worth their while to have spent this day with me. And that's why he's feeling all the sensations. It's the exact same thing, just completely different story. Now, I think it's important to really engage yourself and know what success feels like, as Andy Jenkins teaches us, in advance in any endeavor that you're going into. So what I'd like you to do is play a little game with me. I'd like you to say out loud if you can, if you're in a place where you can say it out loud, because, of course, vocalizing things out loud brings them into the world. I'd like you to say, I'm really good at remembering names. It's easy for me to learn and remember names. Something to that effect. It's easy for me to remember names. I'm good at learning names and remembering names. Okay? And it might feel strange and it might feel weird when you say it. That's why we're doing it. Okay? We want to get you past this hurdle, this story that you're telling yourself. Okay? Of, I'm not good at it. Because if we continue to tell that story, we're never going to be good at it. And it really makes no difference whether the story is true or not true. We believe all kinds of stories about ourselves and about the world that have nothing to do with the truth, and we believe them fervently. All right? There's absolutely no truth to the fact that you're not good at remembering names. And there can certainly be a lot of truth to the fact that you, at the end of this video, you'll know how to remember names, so go ahead and just pretend you already watched the whole thing and say, I'm good at remembering names. If we tell a story often enough to others or even ourselves, naturally we start to believe it. So the name technique we're about to learn right now will be of very little value if you continue to tell yourself a story that goes something like, I suck at remembering names. Remember, the story of our problem often is the problem. So here it is in a nutshell. My cool technique for remembering names. It has two parts, intention and the rhyming name game. Intention. This may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how often people overlook this first step in any endeavor they're looking to produce success in. You really, it's 5 reallys, need to make it your intention to learn and remember people's names. The key to learning anything, a name, a word in French, how to juggle, becoming a millionaire, is to want to. The more you want to, the greater your passion, the more emotion you bring. Not only does that make it easier, in fact, that's the only way to learn anything. Now, we are bombarded, it is said, by some 2 billion bits of information every single second, just coming at us. Okay? Let me explain to you something that's probably never been explained to you before in your life about how your brain actually works, how it knows what to remember, what things you're learning, and what to forget. Okay? What happens is that your brain basically have these structures, these pyramid-shaped structures called the hippocampus, and they fill up with all the memories of the day. Okay? They fill up, all completely full. At night, when you sleep and dream, what they do is it goes through and it processes, it sort of empties out the hippocampus and drains them out. And with each little stored bit of information, each stored memory, it says, does it have any emotion attached to it? That's how your body, your mind decides something to keep, if it has emotion attached to it. That's why if you have the key to learning to speak French, or to learn the tango, or to learn to juggle, or to remember people's names, is to attach emotion to it, to have a passion for it, to really want to do it and want to succeed at it. That's how you remember things. That's how your brain knows. Keep this memory, okay? Bonjour, that means hello in French. Let's keep that thing. And this other thing, he learned some fact about, American history back in whatever, and that I don't care about. Well, let go of that. And that's not a good thing if you have a test in American history the next day. That's why you want to try to even artificially attach some kind of emotion and passion to the things that you're learning. So it drains it all out and it keeps the memories that have emotion on them. That's why people with post-traumatic stress, they hang on to those memories year after year, night after night. It continues. The brain processes it. The hippocampus drains it out. It's got the memory. Says, "Oh, it's still that's a strong memory." And no, it doesn't matter if the emotion is positive or negative. It doesn't play any favors. It doesn't only remember the happy memories. It holds on to the sad ones just as well. In fact, the more intense the emotion, that's all it cares about. Okay, so when you have a traumatic event in your life, obviously we have a real intense emotion about it. That's why 20, 30, 40 years can pass since Vietnam or other traumas in people's lives, and they hang on to them almost the same as if when they just left, because the emotion is still so tightly bound in with that memory itself. And that's the big problem. Now, my program, Lazarus, I actually have a technique, an amazing technique that I created that allows people to basically strip away the emotion from these memories and just literally let go of it and shake it out of their body, so they continue to have the memory but no more association, no more trauma associated with it anymore, because there's no more emotion. It's just an actual memory, and they think about it, they remember it, they know what happened, but it doesn't come up every day or all the time. Now, my program is focused specifically for online marketers, internet entrepreneurs, and might not be your cup of tea, but if you go to Lazarus.com, you'll discover a lot of really interesting viewpoints and takes on the way habits are formed and the way we make change in our life that really apply to anybody. So again, having a strong emotion is the first step towards success, a desire, a passion towards learning anything at all. Okay, so I want you to be fired up, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, about learning to remember people's names. I mean, that's the intention, to walk into a networking event or to go out and go, I'm going to remember their names. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun game I play. That's the key to success. And that leads us to the rhyming name game. The rhyming name game consists of two parts: an adjective and a rhyme. That's the order they logically appear, but I start with the rhyme first. It goes like this. I meet someone, let's say his name is Will. I'm using all real examples, by the way, in this. And he's works at a coffee shop, and he's kind of got a big mop of hair, and he's very chill and cool, and kind of like he's a hip cat, like from the 50 beatnik sort of kind of guy. So Will is chill. That's the rhyme that I attached, so I remember his name. Chill. Obviously a mnemonic device in this rhyme. Then I add an adjective that's an alliteration. If you recall, alliteration is something that has the same first and last. The first letters agree with them. Moaning Myrtle in the Harry Potter stories. In fact, there's a lot of alliteration in Harry Potter, by the way. The heads of all four of each of the schools, Gryffindor and so on, all have alliteration names. Their first name and their last name are exactly the same. None alike Severus Snape, and so on and so forth. So an alliteration, in this case, W. So Will is way chill. Now what I'm using that for, that W, that alliteration in the adjective, that's specifically to help give me a clue about the first letter of the name. Because there's many names that are homonyms. They sound the same. Sean and Jean and so on. And I want, you need from time to time, there's certain names that are so unique. There's only one thing it could possibly start with. And actually we'll deal with that in a moment. But for an average name like Will, there could be some other variations. It's nice to have a reminder. That's what the adjective is for, and that's why we make the adjective an alliteration. Will is way chill. The adjective itself doesn't really add much to the meaning. We're usually just using that to carry that letter, so it reminds us what the name starts with. These are some real examples of names I've learned recently and how the rhyme I created and the adjective I created. Again, I do the rhyme first and then the adjective second. That has the alliteration, although the adjective comes first in my memory as I remember it, but I build it from the backwards forward. Trisha, she's totally delicia. Josh, he's just a little bit posh, and if you met Josh, you would agree. Lisa has a lovely sonrisa. Sonrisa in Spanish is the Spanish word for smile. And this girl smiled a lot when I met her, and in fact, when I told her this name, that she has a lovely sonrisa, that's how I remember her name. She was just utterly delighted, and she smiled even more. It made her feel good. I'd kind of like Karen to be in my harem. This is a good example of that naughty is good. Your brain loves naughty. So, if Howard is a hunk or, some kind of thing like that. Anything you can do, that wouldn't obviously rhyme, but, anything you can do to make it just a little bit naughty, or a lot naughty, depending on your predilection, go for it. It'll help your memory. Your brain loves naughty. Sean has so much brawn. However, there was a case of India. I met a girl named India. this beautiful skin, a big fro, and I'd never met anybody named India before. I didn't need to make a rhyme. I didn't need to put an adjective. India was all I needed. That was such a unique name. Just yesterday, I met a Harlan and I met a Crockett. Neither of those are names that I'm going to need to. I didn't have to build any rhyme or anything to it because they were already, Harlan, really, Crockett. They were such unique names to me anyway. And besides, after you get good at this, as I'll explain in just a moment, you'll be less dependent on actually playing the name game, doing the rhyming. You still need to have the intention. That's always going to be part of it. So forget everything that you learned about rapport building and communication skills and instant listening and all those kinds of little tricks to connect with people. I'll tell you what, if you just learn and remember somebody's name and give that gift to them, that's a great starting point to a relationship. Because what you're doing is you're saying, I see you as unique and special. You're a unique and special individual in the world who has this particular name. Granted, a name is just a label, but it's a label fraught with lots of meanings for them, okay? And you're giving them this gift, and you're saying of what really everybody wants. I mean, that's the secret. Everybody wants to feel unique. Everybody wants to feel special. And you, learning the first time you meet them, their name, reinforces that. It makes them feel unique and special. It's a gift that you're giving them. I mean, I used to go into networking events, and my one thought was, what can I get out of this? Can I get a new client? Basically, who's buying what I'm selling, right? Maybe you've done something similar in the past. Now, when I go into a networking event, I think, what can I give? The gift that I'm going to give to all the people I meet, I'm going to learn and remember their name. I'm going to recognize them as a unique and special person. And that's my goal here. And I'll tell you what, when you do that, I mean, Earl Nightingale says in The Strangest Secret, you can't enrich yourself unless you enrich others first. And that's what this is doing. That's what learning and remembering someone's name is doing, is enriching them, making them feel unique and special. And I would like to suggest that if you were to do that, you would make people feel unique and special by remembering their names at networking events, for example, giving first rather than trying to get. You'll find a lot more buyers for whatever it is that you're selling. So you remember how I told you right up front that it actually feels good to remember people's names. I'm going to explain to you now how that works by sharing with you another inner game secret about how your brain works that probably no one ever taught you in your life before, because really nobody teaches this stuff, which is, of course, why I'm teaching it. I remember during the many years I spent researching and developing all the work that I do now, figuring all this stuff out, I kept asking myself, as I would learn some new thing, I would think, how come nobody ever told me this before? And I realized the people I went to, at least, the teachers I was going to in the areas I was interested in, simply didn't know. That's why they weren't sharing this with me. But fortunately I found out, so I'm here to share it with you now. And it's a concept of, again, about your brain and about memory. We have two different ways, we have many different ways, but another way we have of sorting memories. There's ones with emotion are the ones we keep longer, and the ones without emotion we tend to let go. But we have different types of memories that, one of them falls in the category of what I would call data, like facts and figures, names and dates, which we learn in college and in high school and forget so quickly because they have no real meaning to us, no real lasting emotion or value. And then we have social memories. Social memories are the memories associated with the people, the names and the faces of the people that we know, that we care about. And they're stored in a completely different fashion. What happens is that we have this hormone called oxytocin. You may have heard of it famously called the cuddle hormone. It's a hormone that's secreted into our body, comes at the vagus nerve, and it just makes you feel really, really good. A slight euphoria to it. Women secrete oxytocin when they're breastfeeding and during labor as well. But we do it whenever we call social memories. So for example, if I were to ask you, do you remember when the Eiffel Tower was built? And you may or may not know that it was built in 1889. But even whether you know or don't know, that would be a matter of no consequence. You'd remember it or you wouldn't remember it. Now on the other hand, if I say, remember your mother, well, the image that comes to mind, her beautiful face, her beautiful name, right? That is really covered over in this social memory hormone of oxytocin. It's linked to it. That's why when you're walking down the street and you see someone you haven't seen in a long time, an old grade school chum or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, Cynthia, hey, it's you, how are you? You just feel this well of excitement within you. That's the oxytocin flowing within you. Kind of flows within you when you come home to your family and your children and your friends, when you're part of our social network and our tribe. So each time, the way it kind of cements itself in there is that name, that label that we put on it. So when you go into a networking event or go out in public or go anywhere and you go, oh, hey there, Kristen, hey, Mark, hey, whoever's there, Each time you hit a match, you have a memory of that person you met before, you talked about certain things. A little bit of oxytocin, that cuddle hormone, that social hormone gets released. It says, hey, you're surrounded by tribe. You got friends, right? These are people here to support you and you're on the same page. You have something in common with them. And that's why it feels good in your body to remember people's names, to walk into an event at a venue and know the names of the people that you've met before, to recall them. Who knew there were so many tangible benefits? Just something so seemingly trivial as remembering a person's name. So the sillier the rhyme, the naughtier the rhyme that you make up about somebody, and again, remember, your brain loves silly, your brain loves naughty, your brain loves games, the better. And the more you do this, here's the best part, the more you do this, the more the whole machine of you, your mind, and your body, and your energy, your attitude, your personality, whatever we want to call it, all rolled in together, figure out what you're playing, what game you're playing, the more they'll do it on your own. So here's the best part of the whole thing, having taught you this, and I would really like you to begin telling yourself a story that I'm really good at remembering names. I'd like when you go out into public and do a network event or whatever, to have the intention, the emotion, the passion to remember people's names, to play the rhyming name game by putting an alliterative adjective so you can remember the first letter of their name, and then something that rhymes with it. Sean, in my example, Sean has so much brawn. I mean, you want to put the adjective there first just to make sure you get it right, because you go Sean, but it could be Jean, or it could be, Flan, or whatever it might be. So that's why I added the kind of putting that little adjective in the front, just to give you a cue about their first name and what it starts with, the letter. But here's the point. As you keep doing this, and your body and your mind get the game you're playing, it starts doing it on its own. It's what's called Hebb's rule. Hebb realized that neurons that fire together wire together. And so the part of your brain that's responsible for long-term memory, and then there's a part of you that's like playing this game of learning people's names. Once they kind of start talking to each other and get hooked up, synapses actually grow between them. Okay? And these neurons actually start wiring together, and then it'll actually become automatic for you. You meet somebody, oh, hey, it's Crockett. Hey, it's Harlan. Hey, it's Lynn. Just to name a few people I met yesterday. I didn't have to play the name game with them anymore because I've been doing this a while, and my brain just gets it. It gets the game and immediately just puts it into storage like that. But the way the progression, if you watch the juggle video, the way to learn anything is through progression. 1 ball, then 2 balls, then 3 balls, and then the number of throws. That's what we're doing it by progression. You're going to get to that point that I'm at now, but the progression is to have that intention, to play the rhyming name game, and then you'll get to where I am. We're just literally, without you even thinking about it anymore, just on autopilot, you'll go out and you'll remember people's names. Again, continue to have that intention of learning them. Continue to have the idea of giving them the gift of caring about them, of noticing them, of making them feel unique and special in the world. You do that, you're going to have more success in every one of your endeavors, bar none. Thanks for playing. I'm John McLean with Lazarus.com, the most popular inner game training for online marketers in the world. Till I see you next, remember to love yourself.